We'll make a start. I have to start by reading this out. I am obliged to inform you that this meeting is being videoed. Members of the public are entitled to record the proceedings and are requested to give prior notice so that any additional measures that may assist can be put into place. Any member of the public who has any concern can raise it now. Thank you. Right, we start. Apologies for absence. Now, I've had Lee Chapman, David Minery, and Nick's here now. Oh, yeah, right. Item 2, disclosable pecuniary interests. No. Right. Item 3, the minutes. They came separately, but the minutes are around. Everyone happy with the minutes? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Item 4, public question time. Have we any public questions? No. Item 5, member questions. No member questions. So we get to item 6, scrutiny items. And Claire, right, there are 2 or 3 here, so
yep.
We'll follow your order.
Right, okay. So on the agenda, we've got parking strategy first. And our decision was to uphold the original cabinet decision. So there's no action to be taken on that. And if you have to vote on that, then no.
So we take that as read.
Okay. The second one is the local commissioning of youth activity. And basically we decided to uphold the original decision, but to look at some transitional funding for Shrewsbury Town Council. I have to say though that when we had the original meeting, everyone had been written to as part of the consultation, and they had 6 weeks to respond, and we didn't actually get a response from Shrewsbury Town Council until the night before the meeting. At the meeting we decided that they should discuss some transitional arrangements with us with regard to funding. However, since the meeting and today's cabinet meeting, we only heard back from them after everyone had left the offices last night, which I have to say is somewhat disappointing, considering that Shrewsbury Town Council were the only ones who were affected by that. So I'll leave that one with you.
Right. Nick, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, thank you, Leader. As Claire has said, it was disappointing to get something pretty late yesterday evening. I mean, there's quite a lot of detailed figures there. Frankly, they need looking at and discussing, and of course, in the time available, those discussions haven't yet taken place, but I'm sure they will do in the course of the next few weeks.
Roger?
John, I'll put his hand up first.
Oh, sorry.
Whatever.
Chair, I think it's generally recognised that the working relationship between Shropshire Council and Shrewsbury Town Council has been excellent over the years. I think it's also recognised that Shrewsbury Town Council has got a lot to show other authorities in terms of their efficiency and their ability to get things done and to do a good job when they do it. So I regret the first thing that both the scrutiny chair says and also the portfolio holder is criticism, because there was some delay over the Easter period when people have been away getting these figures together. And I'm not going to go into the personal circumstances related to one of the key people in getting these figures together, but I'm satisfied that it was unavoidable that there was this delay. So can we look at the situation that's before us and not some strange diversion of attention towards Shropshire Town Council, Shrewsbury Town Council, when Shropshire Council are slashing the funding that they're giving to the youth service. They're kicking the young people of the county in the teeth, particularly in Shrewsbury, an area of great need, and it's showing that for some reason they're going below the actual budget that seems to be set, and I'm sure Roger will explain that when he has the opportunity. What the figures show, for those that don't know, is that last year Shrewsbury Town Council spent £115,000 on funding for youth activities, having taken over from the Shropshire Council, and it was given £80,000 towards that contribution. For 2018-19, the Shrewsbury Town Council's contribution is expected to be £121,000 against funding of only £25,000 from Shropshire Council, although it was, when setting its original budget, expecting something around or just over £40,000. Now, if you look at the figures for need for youth services for the whole of the county, the Shrewsbury area is massively above anywhere else in the county, but we're not getting into a them and us type of divisiveness. What the funding that unfortunately they're unable to understand, because it came too late and so on, going to comment on it, is that much of the additional expenditure of the Town Council for the next year is going to be spent saving the Kynaston Road Youth Club in Shrewsbury. Kynaston Road being in the heart of one of the most difficult areas for young people and the youth service, an area of significant social economic deprivation, and the area where we do need a high quality, thoroughly functioning youth service. This was currently being run by people supported by Shropshire Council, but we've withdrawn funds from them, and so this youth service, had it not been the Shrewsbury Town Council taking over, would be closed. And the funding that we're going to put into that, in extended funding, is to continue to run the sessions with one leader in charge, 2 workers for 39 weeks, £6,000. We have to hire the room, so that's £780. We're also going to put in a detached team into this area to work within the unit and also around and about in the area. And people in Shrewsbury know, as I've said, about the problems there. £4,000. And then management cover diversionary activities that we're going to introduce, 4,000 around.
I didn't understand what was meant by diversionary activities. I did see that.
It means things that, what we've got obviously is the traditional youth club activities. We also have outreach workers in the area, organising activities for young people, but not in a formal youth club type setting. We also have diversionary activities which will involve providing special activities, such as fishing, for example, or sports coaching. And we're using, to get the name out, the new CIC that's operating, having very good, significant success in that area.
Would it be better if it had been said that in the...
Well, yeah, sorry, but it's using it in sort of professional speak that people will understand and know what it means.
I don't.
If they're in the field.
Amateur, not a
If
professional.
they're in the field. So I'm sure the portfolio holder knows, because you will have been able to get advice on it even at this late hour. So that's something over £15,000 in total. And that is what we're asking for.
I accept the point you're making, but there is also the fact that Shrewsbury Town Council were aware that we're going to be changes to funding and did increase the council tax at the Town Council precept to actually allow some of this to happen. But anyway, I hear what you're saying, and yeah.
Well, of course we do in that respect, and that is to fund some of the additional expenditure on youth services, and we've got something of a mandate from the council taxpayers to do that.
Yeah.
But this is a cut over and above the cut that we were expecting to receive, and which has been accommodated by that additional precept and by other expenditure that we've
I'll make some suggestions in a minute, but anyway. Right, Roger, do you want to?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Can I say I'm disappointed at the report given by the Chairman of the Scrutiny and also by the Cabinet member. I'm looking at this county-wide.
Mike.
Yeah,
I'm looking at this county-wide and looking at this was called in by a cross-party group of members, some of whom are not from Shrewsbury, because they were concerned at what was in effect being done. We had a big conversation with this authority a number of years ago, and that was how to carry out a consultation. Be careful how the questions are phrased. Don't ask leading questions. We got consultants in. The consultation that was done as a result of a U-turn done by Cabinet, because there's been 3 or 4 different amounts put into the youth service, and it's been changed time and time again. So those questions were leading questions, and I have sympathy with the Shrewsbury Town Council. They weren't asked to comment on was £41,000 or whatever it was sufficient or not. So they didn't. They took the cut on the chin, and then suddenly, out of the blue, Cabinet paper in February came forward with a further reduction. Totally out of the blue, wasn't consulted on.
I don't accept that it was totally out of the blue, and I'm a member of Shrewsbury Town Council, remember, so it wasn't completely out of the blue.
The Cabinet paper that went in December showed 174, 100 and whatever it was, £1,000, and it showed at this, and it showed the reductions from the rural areas. And I read the area in mine. If you look at the responses, the rural areas reacted to the cuts that were being made. And nearly all the responses came from them. The towns, the urban areas, didn't realise they were going to be likely to be further cut. But we are where we are. If one does a consultation, I would suggest we need to ask the questions that do not lead and do not give a false impression. However, what did find out during the consultation was that, as I say, various amounts were put forward by the Cabinet to fund youth activities in Shropshire. And 174,000 was there and was consulted on. But however, unknown to everybody, except maybe the Cabinet, when Council set its budget in February, there was still 234,000 in the budget. And then Cabinet met the week after Council set the budget and cut it back to 174,000. So there's £60,000 spare floating around somewhere, not allocated at this moment in time, where this transition can come from. So I would say on moral, then the Shrewsbury Town Council should go back up to the 41,000, because it's there in the budget that Shropshire Council agreed in February. And one of the officers that came along to the scrutiny committee put a sheet of paper up and said the budget is 234,000, but we're saving another 60,000 and coming down to 174,000. And this transition funding can come out of this £60,000, which is floating around unallocated. And that really, really amazes me that that can be done with a presentation made to a scrutiny with no notice. Thank you.
Right. I don't know, does Nicola Carroll want to respond? Oh, was Claire was going to come back.
Yeah. Yes. What we were looking at with the papers we had, actually there was some increases in youth funding in the south of the county. In rural isolated areas, they ensured that there was enough money for a full-time youth worker in the south of the county. There were 2 specific cuts that we looked at. The one was £5,000 for Oswestry, and Oswestry Town Council have agreed to pick that up, so they're maintaining the same level of youth funding. So the only real cut was Shrewsbury, and I do have some sympathy, hence the recommendation about the transitional funding. But to say that the youth services have been slashed, that's absolutely not correct. We've actually enhanced some of the provision, especially in the more rural areas.
There are 2 recommendations on page 7, A and B, and B is that we do meet representatives of Town Council to discuss this. Now, because of the late response, can I suggest that we have the words on the end of there, that we delegate this to the Director of Children's Services and the portfolio holder to resolve the matter? See how you get on, and then if that doesn't work, come back and we'll go forward with a view to trying to find a way forward. I can see.
I'm amazed at this, that this is going on and on. We've talked about 15,000.
I'm sorry, if you don't respond till 11 o'clock last night, what are we supposed to do?
Well, it shows a lack of trust in terms of what the town council, and I talked about how good the partnership has been.
Sorry,
over the two over the
Alan,
last
if we're
few
talking
years.
about trust, I'm asking you to trust the portfolio holder and the director to come up with to resolve this matter with the town council. Don't you trust them to do that?
Well, I think you've got a series of proposals about £15,000 in
We've
a
got
budget.
two recommendations
in a
here. We've
budget
got
that-
A and B.
What I'm saying is that the transitional funding has been exhibited here. You either think that that's a good thing to keep the youth club open, or you don't. If you think it's a good idea to keep the youth club open and expand it, then don't you think you might say, okay, go ahead, £15,000 for the year.
I think you need to
We-
be careful. I
we-
think you're probably talking yourself out of money at the moment. I think you need to leave it to the portfolio holder, their own director, to have the talks with the town council and see where it goes.
So I think your comments will be noted in terms of what you're saying about the relationship between the Shropshire Council and the Town Council. If the trust is diminished, then I'm...
It hasn't, not in this way. It's you that don't seem to trust us to do the right thing with you.
Well, what you've done at a time when everyone in the country is looking at the violence and difficulties of young people at the moment, and looking at how they can how people can provide greater support, greater guidance, and greater role models and things like that for them within the community, you are cutting the budget that you're spending on young people significantly in Shrewsbury, and the cuts that you made to the youth throughout the county over the last 5 years have been enormous.
Alan, sometimes you're digging yourself a hole. I'm trying to help you here. I'm trying to help you, and you're just digging the hole for yourself. Shropshire will do the right thing, but just leave us to work it out, because if you respond at 11 o'clock at night, you have got to give us some time to actually put our suggestions together, and there will be a discussion with the town council, which I believe will resolve the issue. You've got, the trust is the other way. You've got to trust us to do the right thing. And what I'm saying is, if that doesn't happen, come back to me and I will make sure we rediscuss it.
I hear what you're saying, Peter, and I accept that something will happen as a consequence, but it is the symbolic characteristics of this whole discussion and what happened in the scrutiny, quite frankly, that just...
Well, you're the one that talked about trust, and I'm saying trust us.
Well, why? Well, I know what you're saying, but at one stage we thought we were getting 40-odd thousand pounds in the budget. Overnight, more or less, we went down to 25 with a phone call, one phone call to the town council explaining that.
Stop digging the hole, Alan. You're not helping.
I don't care about Alfred. I just want people to know what is happening in this regard.
I'm sure you will be satisfied when we've had a proper discussion. Right, Roger.
Right. Thank you, Chairman. It's the word trust. How can, I'm not involved in this discussion between the Town Council, but as a spectator for it, I like to trust the information that I am given. 174,000 was the information that I was given was the budget for youth activities. Then suddenly, at a scrutiny meeting, to be told, oh no, the budget is 234,000, but the cabinet member or whoever has taken the decision to cut it to 174,000 a week, less than 7 days after the council meeting, to cut 60,000/60,000, whatever, without informing anybody that this is what I'm doing. That really, really sticks in my whatever.
I'm asking if anybody from finance wants to respond to that, or...
Just as a general point, fundamentally, the environment rules are that any change in the budget under £400,000 is delegated to officers, so it doesn't need a level of scrutiny at cabinet decision that sort of nature.
Anyway, we are where we are. We will talk to the town council. I'm quite confident the matter will be resolved, and I'm asking that on the end of B we put the delegation to the director and portfolio holder to resolve. Is that okay? And we go from there. So can I see if everyone's happy that we do it that way? Yeah. Okay. Right. So And do we need to do any more with that now, or is that's sorted? But I think there was another one there.
Yes. Yes, there is. The report from the Rapid Action Group on refugees for victims of domestic abuse. This was following full council, and I'd like to thank everybody who gave us a day to come along and listen. It was a very worthwhile and moving experience. We had 3 victims who came and spoke to us, and I have to say, everyone who was there was very moved by what we heard. I just want to talk about the last recommendation, and I want to say a few thanks to people. Shropshire Council had an opportunity to respond to the consultation. The consultation closed the day after the meeting. And I want to say a very big thank you to our council leader, Peter Nutting, and also to the head of law, Claire Porter, because without them we wouldn't have been able to respond in time to the consultation. So I think we should, and jointly with Cabinet as well, congratulate them all for a swift response to what is a very difficult situation. And that's all I've got to say, unless anybody has any questions.
And there are 3 recommendations, and presumably you're happy?
Yeah, I'm happy with all the recommendations, but I just want to say that, you know, I'm very proud of the council that when we get an issue like this, we can actually pull out all the stops and respond quickly to those most vulnerable in society.
Yeah. Any comment? Rod Thompson has been the lead officer.
Thanks, Leader. We're fortunate we've got Councillor Calder, who's the chair of our own Health Oversight Scrutiny Committee and joint and co-chair here.
Do you want to?
Thank you. Fortunate again that it was timely in that we had, both Rod and I had a meeting with my opposite number, Andy Burford, from Telford and Wrekin yesterday, and we were able to confirm the first 2 recommendations that he was going to take away. I had a conversation with him prior to this, that we had picked up this, what could be a great anomaly, not only for us in Shropshire, but also in Telford and Wrekin, because domestic violence and abuse doesn't recognise the boundaries, and actually what is being proposed by government could actually cause the local authorities just to look inward at their own pot, rather than actually opening the pot up a little bit, to look after, quite rightly, our own residents and our own people in need. But actually there should be a recognition that we need to work more closely with Telford and Wrekin. Andy's taken that away. And I would hope that to carry on with this and maybe bring something back to you in a few months' time, maybe 4 or 5 months' time,
Okay.
to give you an update on where we are.
But the 3 recommendations all fit in with where we should be going as a council.
Yeah.
And it should be noted that actually, although we are different politics and we're different areas, the 2 councils do on quite a number of issues work well together.
And this absolutely makes sense. You know, we're both providing similar services, and when resources are tight, you know, trying to look at doing something together.
Right. Dean, I don't know whether Dean's portfolio or something. No, you're quite happy. Right. So is everybody on Cabinet happy with these recommendations?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So they're agreed. And again, do they need to go anywhere, or is that accepted? Right. Fine. Thank you. So that's done the scrutiny reports. We then move on to item 7, resettlement of Syrian refugees. Now, this is in Lee Chapman's name. I'm quite happy to move the report, but I don't claim to be the expert on this, but I know somebody who can help me, and that's Dean Carroll. So, Dean, do you want to present it?
Thank you very much, Leader. The Syrian resettlement programme began quite a considerable time ago, and we set up a cross-party working group initially to agree a response from the council to it. And we've taken in a number of families who have settled extremely well. As the report says, one of those has moved on closer to family in another authority. but the remaining families have settled extremely well and have now moved out of their first year with no major problems. So on the score of what's happened previously, I'd especially like to thank Shropshire Welcomes Refugees and Oswestry Welcomes Refugees, which are two voluntary groups that have been set up and done some fantastic work in supporting the families that are in place at the moment to integrate into the communities. So I'd like to thank them particularly. Coming on to the two recommendations that are before you in this report, I hope you can agree to the first recommendation, which is a commitment to settle 10 further families in a second phase. This is a modest number, which represents a small number of individuals, and an actual small number than the first cohort we took in. We already have the infrastructure in place now, and we have the experience to cope with these sorts of numbers of Syrian refugees. So I'm hopeful that this can go ahead with no major problems, and it will be equally successful to the first.
And the second recommendation?
As for the second recommendation, you'll see towards the end of the report there is a section that covers the asylum dispersal programme. I would recommend to you that we at this time say that we don't wish to take part in the asylum dispersal programme, and there's a very different cohort of people to the Syrian families under the Syrian refugee resettlement programme. The skills and infrastructure we've built up to work with the Syrian families resettlement programme isn't the same skill level or infrastructure base that we would need to accommodate the asylum seekers under asylum dispersal. And that I feel, and I believe the message is carried forward in the report, that by accepting both groups would only actually spread the resource too thin, dilute the response, and actually hamper the effectiveness of our ability to integrate the families under the Syrian refugee resettlement programme.
Okay.
I'm happy to answer any questions.
And any other comments around the table? No? So are we happy with the two recommendations? Right, okay, that's agreed then. Thank you. We move on. Item 8 is consultation on Shropshire Council better regulation and enforcement. Rob Macy.
Okay, this paper is an update and revision to a current policy. It's not a statute, it's not a legal requirement for ourselves to have, but it is considered a best practice, and it sets out how we will go about dealing with enforcing regulations and applying them. And really at this stage it's something that's being worked on by all the different service areas, and whilst we don't have to consult on it, we thought it's a good step to go out to the public and consult on this. So I move the recommendation that we do so.
Yeah, I mean, Rob, do you wish to comment, or is it pretty straightforward, I think?
Very straightforward, leader, and it particularly to make sure that in terms of things like standards and some of the other areas where we're protecting the safety of the public, that those services are working effectively. And what part of that is engaging the business community, particularly as a preventative measure, as well as whatever we need to do in terms of enforcement.
Right, so Roger.
Thank you, Chairman. Note the paper, but when I see it is going to council as a result of the consultation and the results that we've had there, but can some statistics on what has been done since 2014, how many staff were employed maybe in 2014, how many staff now, what the response rate is like, things like that, just to give a general profile of where we are, please.
Yeah, you're getting a lot saying you have to.
Yes, we will put together some notes on that.
So presumably, if this is going out to consultation, when are we likely to, is it likely to come back? 8-week consultation, so we'll see this in the summer sometime. Okay, right, and so will you provide the figures separately, or are you going to email everything out, or have a think about how you do that, but so that you get them out. Right, other than that, everyone happy with the report? Okay, thank you very much. Item 9, new parking strategy framework for on-street residence parking.
Okay. You have before you, as the leader says, part 2 of the parking strategy, which is for on-street residence parking. And just to pull out, I'm going to ask Kevin, can you just come to the table? By the way, Kevin Aikins more or less owns this, has written this, and put an awful lot of work into it. And I must thank him for doing so. But just to pull a few bits out of this, residence parking scheme provides concessions to enable residents and their bona fide visitors to park in close proximity and a reasonable distance from their homes. Residence parking schemes are a useful traffic management tool, allowing residents to park while reducing congestion and maintaining access for emergency vehicles. There are currently resident parking schemes operating in Ludlow, Bridgenorth and Buzzard Street. We have received a number of requests for resident parking schemes in most of our market towns. No scheme have been introduced under the existing policy which requires residents to champion the schemes. The new policy proposals for on-street residence parking incorporate 5 tiers of screening, consultation and implementation of new or amendment of existing schemes with priorities to project management led by officers and in conjunction with town and parish council and members, may I add. So the recommendations are that Cabinet give approval of implementation of Part 2, the new on-street residence parking policy. The proposed on-street residence parking policy detailed in Appendix 1 of the report is adopted, including an increase in permit costs. 2, that the requests for residence parking schemes are detailed in Appendix 2 of this report are assessed and the programme for implementation is developed that best fits with the implementation of both Parts 1 and 2 of the parking framework. And so if you've got any questions, I'll try and answer them. If I haven't, these are very detailed piece of work, this, which fits, as we said, closely with Part 1.
Roger and Alan.
Thank you, Chairman. I note this with interest, and I haven't had a briefing from officers. We'll be asking for one, so detail can come later, and where this goes from now, I'm not sure. But I noticed that a doubling of the permit that the resident will have from £50 to £100 is quite a steep jump. I'm not sure whether that includes present permit holders, whether when they come to renew it, they will have to pay the £100, because part of the justification is paying back the £88,000, which it's estimated will cost the introduction of any further street permits, which I assume is going to be on an area basis to cost that much. Because I also noticed that on page 44, there's a paragraph there which says the number of schemes to which the council can commit is subject to the size of the schemes and the available budget for residence parking. Now, I'm not sure what sort of budget Shropshire Council is giving this and how the priority is going to be set for this. If the report says £88,000 per scheme is going to be the cost, and there's another £35,000 for the introduction of the present ones, I'm not sure where we are with budgetary items. And if I was a resident, to have it increased from 50 to 100 in one fell hike, and also how resident schemes will be assessed in the future. And I noticed that road safety is not one of the reasons for taking it forward. There's a lot in this which needs an inward digestion for it, but those to me are the headline points that I would like answers to. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to start with that the parking strategy for on-street parking is cost neutral. We're not allowed to make money out of it. I'm going to ask Kevin to break that down, and I don't believe £100 a year is expensive for a car parking in an area that you're going to be not guaranteed, but you're going to be dedicated to your own parking space of £2 a week.
No, you're not dedicated, yeah.
No, I say it's not dedicated, but you've got preference.
Kevin, do you wish to comment? I think if you look on page 43 towards the top, it does say, it should be noted, that legislation does not allow surpluses to be generated from on-street permit provision. This isn't anything to do with making profits or anything, it has to be paid for itself.
I can go back, Chairman, on that before, Kevin. It's how much does the council charge for its services to accomplish this? So if the legal charges, whatever, that the Shropshire Council charges for this, are we charging £300 a day, £500 a day? Whatever, I don't know. So, okay, we're not making the
Sorry, that's a bit of a
profit.
red herring.
But it all depends how much we charge. £88,000 is a lot of money.
Right, Kevin.
I think in terms of the £88,000 that's been focused on, that is the cost that we estimate will be for the implementation of a new scheme. And what we are proposing to do is to implement a scheme. That is the average cost. We are looking to start to implement schemes on an area basis rather than a individual street basis, as we have done in the past. And the 88,000 is the worst case scenario, with having to go down each street, line and sign each street individually. With the new regulations, we can actually look at, in certain scenarios, at providing gateway signage, so we don't necessarily now have to provide the interim signage that we traditionally provided. So it is an estimate that covers the worst case scenario, and it is based on the average size of a residence parking scheme, which we estimate will be 350 properties in the scheme. What we are proposing to do, it works out at a cost of about £250 a property to implement a scheme, and we're proposing to break that cost down over a 5-year period. So you take your £250 over a 5-year period, that is the £50 that will be added to the existing £50 charge to give you the £100 per annum permit charge. Now, if you look at that charge in terms of it's £100, that's less than £2 a week that will enable residents to park in close proximity to their home. We're not saying we're going to guarantee a space outside their house, but in terms of we're looking to be able to provide provision for residents to park in close proximity of their home.
I mean, this is all sort of managed by enforcement. You know, we can't guarantee a space, but we try and guarantee a space on the street. But don't also forget that this is also driven by demand and request, and particularly in the Shrewsbury area at the moment, the demand comes from Castlefields, Colwyn, and Bellevue. So we are reacting to demand on this.
Right.
Quickly,
and then I'll move on to Alan.
Is that, will it be reduced after 5 years then? Back down to the £50 if this is paid for the implementation?
If we're here, we'll talk about it then.
Where are we with the existing permit holders who already have a parking schemes in operation? Are they going to be charged £100 or not? Because theirs is already in operation.
We've currently got a number of schemes in operation, and there are variants in costs. Depending on which market town we're in, we're still in a situation where we've inherited things from prior to Unitary, and we are currently subsidising the issue of permits in some towns, and there are no fees charged whatsoever. With this new policy, we're looking to create parity across the county and to cover our costs, and in doing so we are proposing to charge everybody the same price per permit, irrespective of whether it's a new scheme or whether it's an existing scheme.
Alan.
In the last 18 months, I've held 2 large public meetings with Castlefield people on a number of issues, and at each the idea of residents-only parking was raised. And there, at that time we were talking about somebody taking on the role of champion to promote and to carry out the 30% type of accumulation of interest. No one wanted to do that, and when the people were asked whether or not they were in favour of residents-only parking, only about 2 or 3 out of those large numbers said they wanted it. So I just wonder, I mean, what the number in Castlefield of customer service requests is. It's got a tick by it. I see that in the criteria on page 49, and looking for evidence requests, that a customer service request has historically been received. So how many customer service requests have we had for residents-only parking in Castlefield?
Well, I can't give you that detail here.
Well, and received at public consultation. How many, there's a tick there for Castlefield, how many requests for residents-only parking in Castlefield have been received in a public consultation?
What I can tell you is we've had all 3 boxes ticked, customer requests.
Oh, I can see that.
Yeah. So actually, that's why we're going down that route.
I'm looking at the boxes, but how many?
I
Is
don't
it
know.
one?
We can
A
find out.
thousand?
I can't. I've already
We're
told you I
talking,
can't
we're
give you
talking
that.
about, we're talking about people in 713 properties, and how many of those are does this table refer to? And that implementation requires to support the strategy. That's something we can discuss. The reason I raise this, because I mentioned this, because clearly residents-only parking is extremely misunderstood by residents. They think they get a parking space. They think they get a parking space. They don't think whether or not they'll have a parking space for people who visit their houses. And as you see in the report, you may or may not, and you have to pay extra for that. If there's 2 cars in a family, or even 3, how many parking permits can you have? That's not clear in this, and people don't understand all these implications. Because of that, but also because of human nature, I suppose, the park residents-only parking can lead to significant conflict within neighbourhoods, where people find that there still isn't a space for them, and that leads to conflict between the people nearby. I'm also concerned that Shrewsbury is down, not just Castlefield, but Shrewsbury is down as first priority in terms of implementation. I'm also concerned that there's a proposal on page 49 under 8 that traffic regulation order consultations will begin in May 2018. Now, and the first priority elsewhere is Shrewsbury. I have not been consulted on this. I don't think any other councillors have been consulted in this, and the inclusion of their area into this list and this proposal. I think that is deeply disturbing that this hasn't happened.
Okay, we are hereby demand, but this is also going to be led by members, town and parish councils. So actually, it will, all that feedback will be in through those avenues, and it will be led by demand.
So, why is a traffic regulation order consultation starting May 18 when there's been no demand?
Well, we certainly
From the
have
public,
that
but
demand.
certainly not
We've
from
certainly got
councils.
demand
In some of these
other
areas
towns.
that are listed here.
And we've got,
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
sorry, we've got them in place in Ludlow, Bridge North and Oswald Street, and I know for a fact we've got demand in Oswald Street. In fact, even in Ellesmere, although we've not got pre-ticked, we've got some demand of requests for, but actually till we've got it in place, we can't start.
You've got totally different services in the areas that you've mentioned compared to some of the extremely large neighbourhoods that are involved in this and complex neighbourhoods and highly complex considerations taken into account. What I'm saying is you've got a report here that says that something's going to be done in May 2018 and nobody's been consulted on the local level. And I'm telling you that the feelings of people at the local level are contrary to some of these conclusions that this tick box shows.
If I'm reading this right, and tell me, Kevin, you were the writer and Steve presenting it, in part 2 it talks about assessing things. So presumably, say you go to Castle Fields, you actually talk to the residents and assess whether they want it or not.
Yeah, residence parking is a very emotional and sensitive subject, and that is why with these policy proposals we are proposing extensive consultation, extensive screening in terms, we are proposing a 5-tier level of consultation, the start of which is to look at is it a residence parking scheme that is required, or is it any other form of traffic management measure that is required. So we've gone out of our way to provide extensive an extensive consultation procedure that will pick up. We accept that, yeah, with parking you're never going to be able to please everyone. Usually you're talking about a third of people that are in favour, a third against, and third they're not bothered either way. And this consultation procedure, I think, will sift out and enable us to go down the correct route.
Yeah, I think what Alan's getting at, and I sort of understand the argument, is that it does almost sound like we're going to do this, whatever, and that's not the case.
And Peter, the difference in this scheme, as it was originally, that in this scheme, the initial setting of this process is officer-led, and based on maybe 1 or 2.
Well, but that's not going to happen. What I'm saying is, there will be a consultation exercise.
It's here though, Peter.
It's the words in of the recommendations.
So it is the first priority, the first area to be considered. There's a list of areas.
But not to actually implement, to go out and assess is what it's saying.
No, implementation priority score.
Well,
look at that.
Yes, but if you read the recommendation, it's talking about assessing each area, and that's what I'm trying to draw out from Kevin. Say in Castle Fields, you go along, say there's 500 houses, and 300 say, we don't want this, 100 are neutral, 100 are in favour. What are you going to do?
The consultation process will sift that out. When you get to the 4th level of consultation, I think it is from memory, then we're talking about looking at more than a 50% majority.
Can I also say that the implementation score comes from 3 different parts, and it's not just officer, it's public, and from the part 1 of the strategy. So we're going to look at those first, because that's what was indicated to look at in the first instance.
But you've already done it. You've already done that. There is the implementation priority score there, writ large, 3, 3, 3. So those are the high priorities. You've already done that. And
Yeah, but that's not saying we'll do it, that's saying we'll
We'll
assess
look at it first, we'll assess it first.
But you can't even say how many people fall into these categories.
And that's what the information will now
But you're
find
saying
out.
that they're there.
No, I think you're misreading.
You're misreading it.
Right, sorry, Roger.
Where does the member fit in with this? So even before we start consultation, is the member going to be asked? I've heard Alan say that he's had some and he can't see any support in Castle Fields, so you don't know how received public consultation, you don't know how many that is. So if there's just 2 or 3, we're going to start an initial consultation, start spending money on that. When the local member hasn't been asked their views, do you think it's worth considering? Is it worth doing or not? That isn't built into what I've heard as part of the 5. It's as a result of the public consultation there.
As a result of the
we'll start to do it. But where does the local member fit in?
For instance, the local members approach, which I've been approached, and I know one of your members have been approached locally here. So it's an approach from either the town, as I said before, the town, the member, the town, or the parish council, or the local residents.
I do think you need to make sure you've read the report properly, because it does say it is proposed that prior to any consideration for any residence parking, potential for alternatives, they're looking at all sorts of things.
Well, yeah, well, I would hope that they would, but it's a question of what sets the ball rolling, because you can see a process taking place here, and that's a desktop exercise you're talking about.
Yeah,
But Can I just say that there is one telling point in here, because the original documentation gave the final decision for the implementation to the portfolio holder, and the local member wasn't involved in that. But there is a suggestion here that that is changed to substitute the local member rather than portfolio holder. But that's after a process of 50%, more than 50% or more than 50% takes place. But if those 50% criteria are not met, then the portfolio holder is going to be able to make the decision on behalf of the area. That was the original thought. That, thankfully, has been changed to the local member. But setting this all in motion, it doesn't talk about the local member as having been at the centre of it. And I'm not just talking about myself, I'm talking about lots of other people as well.
Right. I mean, I think it's pretty straightforward. But I'm quite happy to stick a 3, the local members be consulted with, or something along those lines. Oh, sorry, Pauline, yeah, you did.
One of the big problems I see living in the town centre, being a town centre resident, is the fact that when the planning applications come forward for housing in the town centres, the planners don't require extra housing, extra parking spaces, because they say, well, you've got a car park near you, so you can use that. And that sort of came into being when before they started charging residents to use the car parks. And this is something that, as a town councillor, we have objected to very strongly, because we say every house should have 2 car parking spaces. So this has exacerbated the whole problem. I'm in Chapel Street, where I live. I can speak, I mean, I know it seems I've got an interest, but I have a designated space that I can park my car with permission if I can't get in the street outside my house. We have 13 apartments at the top of Chapel Street, and we have 20 spaces for the rest of the houses. So there's no way that you can, people have, I mean, I did have a meeting quite a few years ago under this council's guidance about people wanted residents parking, but nobody was willing, as Alan said, to be champion. Nobody wanted to lead it. They wanted us as the councillors, and I was told by the officers, you can't. The residents have got to lead on this, which was, you know, it was all right. But I do think that we have got to take into account that if there's going to flats are going to be built, accommodation, you know, a place that they must have parking spaces to go with them before permission is given, because you know they give permission willy-nilly, but then that causes a big problem for the rest of the residents that live in that area, because you know they've got the parking, and then oh yeah, you can have 4 flats there, which was originally a shop, you know, one shop, and it does.
I mean, I absolutely totally agree with you. On planning, we've seen this over the many years. I totally agree with you. But I think that's something we have to deal with through planning, and we should be doing so.
What I would say, and Alan would be interested in this, the reason why parking permits didn't come in the past in Shrewsbury was because once we started progressing schemes and people really understood what was involved, they all of a sudden changed their mind. They really, when they understood that they weren't guaranteed a parking place and the costs involved and the regulations around it, instead of 300 people being enthusiastic, suddenly you had 300 people who didn't want to go anywhere near it. And so I do think, Alan, you have got a point when you say that once we explain to us, but I think that will happen as the next part of the process. It's not, we're not going to go along and say, knocking on the door. You know, we are going to have a proper exercise about it.
Can the police and the parking enforcement people get together, because we get different views put to us, you know, unless you've got double yellow lines, anybody can park on the pavement, which, I mean, I still think it's illegal.
No, you can't.
Well, this is a different, this is what the enforcement officer told me. You can park on the street, there aren't double yellow lines, they can, and this is causing big problems, particularly in Barnard Street, where they're very, very narrow roads. They're on Facebook all the time, there's fighting going on.
I do believe the government are changing some of the rules, but I know in the cul-de-sac I live in, people do park on them. And I think the rule says as long as you need enough room so that people can walk past. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I can assure Alan about his worries. There will be a proper consultation take place. This will not be imposed anywhere where there are a majority of people who do not want it. Right.
Well, I hope not. Well, why would you introduce it if the majority of people...
Well, we won't.
don't want it? No, I know you won't. You wouldn't under the previous scheme. I'm just talking about it. I'm concerned about wasting a lot of time and effort and money on investigation. And I'm also concerned about, this happens in pockets, about there's antagonism and can be developed conflict within communities because of this, and there's no need for it. I think there has to be shown that's clear evidence of desire by a substantial amount of people in an area for this to come about. And I'm asking for clear evidence of that, so that this table, which shows age incidents, the tick box, can we please have the actual evidence for that tick going in that box? How many people are we talking about?
There has to be rules within the county, and after that it's approved by demand.
Right.
Well,
What I am happy to put as a third thing is that there is consultation take place with local councillors prior to any further action. So that Kevin and Steve will talk to you, and one assumes that common sense will prevail. And if somebody says, look, this is never going to happen in my patch, don't waste £10,000 doing a public consultation exercise, that will be listened to. Whereas in other areas, they might say, yes, my residents are desperate for this, I want you to do it.
Yeah, it's a small street with particular circumstances, but in some areas you're talking about a whole neighbourhood.
Common sense will prevail. Right. So I'm happy, well, it has been moved, I'm happy to second the recommendations, but we'll put a 3 that says about consultation with local members, just so that is clear. Okay, is everyone happy with that? Right, thank you. I've got that many bits of paper, I've lost my agenda. Item 10, Whitchurch Civic Centre.
Thank you, Mick. It sounds a little mundane after that's the last item. Whitchurch Civic Centre has had a £900,000 facelift 4 years ago, following a meeting with the Town Council members and Shropshire Council members 6-7 months ago, along with the leader. A couple of other maintenance points were pointed out to us. These have now been addressed in agreement with the Town Council and their request to take this on. This paper is now before us, and the recommendations are laid out in front of you. So with that, I move.
Right, I'm happy to second. Everyone happy? Yes.